Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. My name's Amber. I upload beauty and true crime content. If they're the type of videos that you like to watch, then why not hit that subscribe button and come along and join our little family. And now we can get into today's True Crime Tuesday. Let me just do a quick warning that I do not mean any disrespect to anyone mentioned in this video. I also like to mention that these videos do contain adult references. If that makes you feel uncomfortable in any way, that is fine. You can click off this video, and there are plenty of others on my channel that would be more suitable for you. But now we can get into today's case. Today guys, we're going to be talking about another serial killer, and this is a British serial killer known as Trevor Hardy, and he was also known as the Beast of Manchester. Trevor Hardy was a convicted English serial killer who murdered 3 teenage girls in the Manchester area between 1974 and 1976. Trevor Joseph Hardy was born on the 11th of June 1945. Details of his childhood are limited, but it is suggested that Trevor was subjected to the violent hands of an alcoholic father, along with a mother who just couldn't protect her son. He was subjected to relentless mental and physical abuse. From a young age, Trevor was frequently described by people as a bully. He was even feared by members of his own family. At the age of 8, Trevor was caught stealing, and this is when his criminal behaviour spiralled out of control. Theft then became a compulsion for Trevor. In 1972, aged 27, he was jailed for 5 years after causing grievous bodily harm to a man with a pickaxe over a round of drinks. On the 18th of November 1974, Trevor was released from the Isle of Wight's Albany jail. Just 6 weeks after his release, he committed his first murder. Again, it's another one of them cases, isn't it, where you're like, oh my god, you had him, you arrested him, god, lock him up and throw away the key. On New Year's Eve, the 31st of December 1974, Trevor murdered Janet Leslie Stewart, who was just 15 years old. She'd been stabbed to death and mutilated before buried in a shallow grave in Newton Heath, Manchester. Janet was a Rose Queen at Harpury Church, which she attended, and Trevor had actually mistook her for a schoolgirl whom he had been infatuated with. Trevor also ripped a ring off of her finger, and he went on to give it to another girl as a love token. For weeks after a murder, sadistic Trevor actually kept returning to her gravesite to savagely rip apart her body parts using his bare hands before scattering parts of her around the city in a depraved attempt to hide his crime. It would be 2 years before Janet's family learned of her tragic fate. On July 19th, 1975, Trevor went on to commit his second murder. Wanda Scala was just 17 years old when she was murdered by Trevor. She'd been walking home from a hotel where she worked as a barmaid, and she was hit over the head with a brick. Wanda was then robbed, sexually assaulted and strangled with her own tights. She was walking along Little Bound Road in Moston. Her naked body was found partially buried on a local construction site. Trevor had actually bit off one of her nipples and kept it as a trophy, along with her blood-stained handbag and clothes. Trevor then went on to have dental work done to his teeth so that they would not match the bite marks found on Wanda's body. Trevor was arrested for Wanda's murder after bragging about it to his youngest brother, but he was then freed on the basis of an alibi he had arranged with his partner Shelley Farrow, and because he had filed his teeth down, obviously they didn't match the bite marks on her body. He would then go on to kill a third victim 6 months after being freed. In March of 1976, Sharon Mossop, aged 17, was murdered and dumped in Rochdale Canal at Falsworth, Oldham. Trevor came across her when she was walking home from a staff party, and she'd spotted him attempting to rob a shopping centre at night. She'd been strangled with a pair of tights, her body was stripped naked and mutilated, and again one of her nipples had been bitten off. At the height of the hunt for this serial killer, when they didn't know it was Trevor, there were actually 23,000 people who were stopped and searched. A 21-year-old named Christian Campbell was then involved in a really vicious attack, but fortunately she managed to escape, and she provided the police with crucial information in order to arrest Trevor. Trevor was then arrested in August of 1976. He confessed to the murders of Wanda Scala and Sharon Mossop, along with the murder of Janet Leslie Stewart, who until then had been classed as a missing person, and eventually he led police to the site of where he had heartlessly disposed of her severed head. At his trial on the 2nd of May 1978 at the Manchester Crown Court, Trevor fired his attorney and attempted to confess to manslaughter. Now, despite pleading guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility, the jury found him guilty of all 3 murders and sentenced him to life imprisonment in Wakefield jail, and he had to serve a minimum of 30 years. This guy, if he had not been caught... Whew. Trevor did maintain his innocence throughout his life, and he reportedly sent a letter to Sharon's relative blaming his parents for their actions that had led to their daughter's murder. On the 23rd of February 2008, the Times revealed that Trevor was one of up to 50 prisoners in Britain who had been issued a whole life tariff and who was unlikely to ever be released. The whole life tariff was reaffirmed in June 2008 by the High Court. Trevor would remain in Wakefield jail until his death on the 25th of September 2012, where he suffered a heart attack in his cell. Having spent 35 years in prison, Trevor was known to be one of the longest serving prisoners ever in England and Wales, a small consolation for the families of the victims. Manchester locals had long suspected Trevor in the 1971 murder of Dorothy Leyden, and in 2004 family members requested that the Greater Manchester Police re-examine all evidence. Dorothy Leyden's body was found after she'd been to a Jimmy Ruffin concert at the Golden Garter nightclub in April of 1971. Her body was found at a waste ground in Collyher. The teenager spent the evening of the 24th at the concert before heading into central Manchester. At about 2:30 she got a taxi that she had shared with friends at Piccadilly Gardens bus station, and it's thought that she decided to walk home. Her body was found the following day behind the now demolished Spread Eagle pub. In 2008, detectives did re-examine evidence like the family had wanted. They believe that the evidence actually exonerates Trevor in the murder of Dorothy, as the DNA samples examined almost 30 years after the crime were found not to be a match to Trevor. The Beast of Manchester is an understatement, and I actually think it's a very scary thought to think that if he had not been caught, he would have most certainly 1,000,000% gone on to have killed more girls. I mean, look at the girl who actually came forward to say she'd been attacked. If she had not escaped, she would have been murdered. That's what he was aiming to do. And I do think if he'd not been caught, his list would have been a hell of a lot longer. I'm just so glad that he was caught and he was put behind bars and he did serve a long ass sentence. So glad that the families actually know, even though it's awful, at least they get to see him behind bars and not out on the street. You know, he rotted behind bars. Anyway guys, I would love to know what your thoughts and feelings are on this case. Let me know that down below, and I shall see you in the next one. Mwah. Thanks so much for watching.